Working capital management is your next topic. So under working capital management, the contents will be covered are the concept of working capital, the determinants of working capital, what are the dangers of having adequate and inadequate working capital, and the sources of working capital. So these working capital concept, in the sense, the meaning. The rest three topics that you see are always asked in section C, right? List out the determinants of working capital. What are the benefits of having adequate working capital? Or what are the benefits or what are the dangers of having inadequate working capital? What are the sources of working capital? So please pay attention. All these topics are your section C questions. Okay. So let's start with the concept. So the term working capital management primarily refers to the efforts of the management towards effective management of current assets and current liabilities. So we know what is the formula for working capital. It is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. So working capital equals to current assets minus your current liabilities. An efficient working capital management means ensuring sufficient liquidity in the business to be able to satisfy your short-term expenses and debt. So, in short, working capital is the capital required to run your day-to-day businesses. That means all your short-term commitments, let's say the wages that you pay to your labor every month or every week, right? Your electricity bills of the company, or your stationery bills, or your rent for your premises. All these are short-term commitments or short-term expenses that every business will face. Only when you settle all these expenses will you be able to run your business smoothly. So that is why it says an efficient working capital management. What does it ensure? If you're having it, your working capital is managed efficiently, what can the company ensure? Company can ensure sufficient liquidity, right? So when you're able to manage working capital, the company will have enough liquidity to pay off your short-term obligations. Is that clear? If it is insufficient, then you'll be always be having a due of expenses or due of payments to be made. But when you have enough liquidity, that means you can pay off all your short-term commitments at the earliest. So today let's look at the factors influencing working capital. To start with, the nature of industry. The composition or the size of the business and the industry to which it belongs to is considered. The proportion of current assets needed in sub-business activity varies from other lines. Now here that we talk about nature of industry, right? Whether let's say it is a manufacturing industry or a trading industry, the amount of working capital that you require will vary from industry to industry, or will vary from firm to company, company to company. It will keep changing. Why? For an example, if your business is involved in manufacturing business, okay, let's say you're manufacturing or producing certain commodity, that means uh, install more of your capital into fixed assets, because you need a godown, you need a machinery, you need a factory, right? You need all the equipped machinery, etc. That means most of your money is going on long term capital. You wouldn't have a frequent payment of bills, because much of it would go into purchase of machinery or purchase of equipments, correct? And there you will have also in bulk, you're going to take the raw materials and finish the production process. So in manufacturing industry, you will need more of fixed capital and less of working capital. I did not tell there won't be working capital. Please note that there will be less requirement of working capital. You understand? That's about a manufacturing concern. Now let's say you are a retailer, you are a trader, correct? Now you have a small shop where you sell lot of different kinds of materials or commodities. there you will have lot of connections with the customers frequently come and purchase from your shop. Here, if you are a trader, what is your major investment? Your major investment is your working capital here, right? Your long term capital is very less. That means to say you just need a just need a room or a shop to run the business, and all the other things becomes working capital. Payment of electricity bills, payment of rent, payment of labor, and frequently that you take you allow credit to your customers, etc. So if you are a retailer or a trader, you need, because the retailer does not spend much money in putting up equipments, in building large godowns and building large factories. He just needs a small room or a shop to conduct his business, correct? So in this case, the need for long term capital or fixed capital is very less. I'm not telling it is not there, it is just lesser requirement. But in terms of working capital for a retailer, it is much higher. As I told, he will have to be having more frequent inflows and outflows of cash, that compared to a manufacturing concern. Manufacturing is just one time or once in 6 months, that way. But for a trader or a retailer, it is very much frequent. You got it? I'm just repeating it. Manufacturing concerns will have requirement of fixed capital high and requirement of working capital low. For retailer or trader, requirement of fixed capital is low and requirement for working capital is high. That is the meaning of nature of industry. So from business to business, what business you're involved in, it will start differing. Second, size of business. Size may be measured in the terms of scale of operation, right? Now, when I say size of the business, I mean to say whether you are a large scale company or a small scale. That means, are you producing just 100 units per month or are you producing 10 lakh units per month? That is called the scale of operation. Bigger firms may have many sources of funds which will require lesser amount of working capital as compared to the smaller firms. So depending upon what is your scale of operation, even your requirement of working capital will also change. As the statement says, bigger or larger scale of operation companies may have many sources of funds. That means they have a backup of, let's say, debtors or bank overdraft. All the time they have a backup because they're a larger firm operating on a large scale. But that so many options won't be available for a small firm who operate on a very small scale of operation. So again, the need or the requirement for working capital depends also on the size of the businesses. Number 3, terms of purchase and sale. The credit policy relating to sales and purchases also affects the working capital. Very important. Whether on what terms you are selling and at what terms are you purchasing, that will definitely impact a company's working capital requirement. Now, in case a company purchases raw material in cash and sells on credit, it will require larger amount of credit. So if I'm a trader, whatever raw materials I'm purchasing by paying cash. That means I don't have any due payments. I'm paying it right when I purchase the raw materials. But that does not apply when I'm selling. When I'm selling it to my customers, I'm selling it on credit basis, not on cash basis. You get it? So when I'm selling my goods, I'm not receiving cash immediately. I'm receiving cash, or I will be receiving cash in the later point of time. That's it. That is called on credit sales or selling on credit. Is that clear? So in that case, I need a larger amount of working capital. Number 4, production cycle process. The term production cycle refers to the time involved in manufacturing of goods. That is the time between conversion of raw materials to finished goods. Now again, if you are a manufacturer and you involving in some manufacturing business. There are certain goods that require less conversion time or less production cycle. That means, let's say, to convert a raw material into finished goods, maybe you just need a week's time. To convert raw material into finished good, you just need a week's time. But there are certain companies which takes 1 month, or maybe let's say 20 to 25 days to convert the raw material into the finished goods. In that case, your requirement of working capital will also change. If it's a short cycle, the production cycle is very short, that means very quickly you are able to convert your raw material into finished goods, working capital requirement will be less. But when you're taking more time and the production cycle is taking a longer time, that means it takes the requirement of working capital is higher. Okay, again, the factors affecting our production cycle process that will differ from each manufacturing company to another. Number 5, business cycle. Depending upon the cycle, whether it's boom period or depression period, the amount of working capital requirements will vary. Now, production cycle is time taken to convert raw material into finished goods. But what about business cycle? Business cycle is, you remember what I've taught you in the class, the business cycle, there is a starting point, there is that curve of which I've showed you, right? When the business initially starts and it picks up sales, there is that introduction stage, there is growth, there is maturity, there is decline, and then there is saturation. This is called the business cycle. Now here, when I'm talking about working capital, it says when there's boom period and when there's depression period, the requirement of working capital will also differ. When it is boom period means what? When there is more number of sales, that means there are more number of people who are demanding for your goods. So automatically your production process and everything is going to increase because the demand is there in the market. So automatically the requirement of working capital will increase. On the other side, what is the working capital requirement in depression period? Depression period means what? Your demand or the demand for your commodity has reduced day by day. There's no more people buying your company's products or commodities. So automatically your production will slow down, your sales are going to cut down, right? All of those things will start declining. So automatically, will you need higher working capital here? Definitely not. You will need very less working capital. Is that clear? So that is about the business cycle. Number 6, production policy. It means whether it is continuous or seasonal production. Production takes place throughout the year and sales will be only seasonal, then the requirement is high. Now here we are talking about production policy. It is different from production cycle. Okay, production policy means continuous or seasonal production. Now certain products you can only produce it or manufacture it seasonally. Okay, let's say now winter clothes or winter warm clothes, right? Now that can be only sold in the times of winter. Other times you really cannot make sales of the winter textiles, correct? Now there are certain products or there are certain commodities which have production throughout the year. You have to produce it, but then when can you sell it? Only seasonally. Okay, only on certain season or certain months only you can sell it. So your requirement for working capital will also differ. Whether your production is throughout the year, then your working capital requirement is high. If your production is taking place only for few months, then your requirement for working capital will be less. Is that clear? So that is about the 6th point, production policy. Is that clear? So we have covered 6 points today. What is the meaning of working capital? It is the difference between current assets and current liabilities, factors affecting working capital, nature of the industry, size of the business, terms of purchase and sale, production cycle process, business cycle, and production policy.